Hey, how's it going? Good to hear back from you. All right, so there are two things basically that I want to cover with this video. Um, you talked about how to distinguish between the true and false parts of the Bible, first off, and second, you made a challenge to me. So here's regarding your explanation. You had kind of two parts. You talked about, on the one hand, my experience, and with the guy who said that without the Bible, we wouldn't have any moral code. And I said, no, I mean, we do have a moral code. And I brought up the thing of murder, and you brought that up. Um, but I'm not really sure how that helps you, actually, because basically you're just admitting that the only way that you know, or that in this case, the way you know the Bible's true is because without the Bible, it's still true. So if it's not true in the Bible and it says it, if it's true in real life and it says it in the Bible, then you know it's true. Well, yeah, I'm not really sure how that helps you because we're not talking about are there parts in the Bible that are true? We're talking about how do you know which parts are true? See the difference? Um, Same thing with your next thing. You brought up this website. I went through it. I didn't go through them all because there were a lot, but I went through probably about 10 or 15. Um, and unfortunately, I wasn't really impressed by them. The example where you said the world hangs on nothing. Um, First of all, that's dependent upon the translation, like most of these are. He tended to use the uh, the King James version. If you go to other translations, a lot of the things that he says don't hold up. If you go to other translations, I'm not a theologian and I don't know how to speak these ancient languages, so I can't find like what they're really saying. But if these different translations change whether it's scientific or not, I'm not so sure that's really a basis for this sort of thing. And anyways, most of them were pretty ambiguous. Your example, the world hangs on nothing. You said no other religions don't have explanations. Okay, so I mean, first of all, I don't really find this to be very scientific at all. The world hangs on nothing. First of all, I mean, we know the world doesn't hang. Um, it's held by gravity. I don't really see a correlation there. Like, yeah, it's kind of working, but it sounds more like a whimsical simile sort of thing. I don't think that's very scientific. Like it seems to me the world kind of hangs on nothing. It's like there's stuff outside the world, and then there's the world. So the world must be hanging on nothing. That seems to kind of follow just from existing and looking up and down. That doesn't seem very profound to me. Um, yeah, that's the second thing about the website is that you're trying to find scientific facts in a book which says that snakes lost their legs because it deceived Eve. Um, so this is the book that says that snakes talk. This is the book that says unicorns existed. This is the book that says rainbows were created because God was sorry for creating a flood. This is the book where people walk on water. The seas are parted. All these fantastical things that cannot be supported are not in many cases aren't recalled under any other traditions, and if they are, they're interpreted in so many different ways that it makes you wonder: is this really the true way that it went down? Um, but I mean, there are big things like snakes talking and unicorns and things like this, and the world being covered in a gigantic flood, which is completely inconsistent with um, what we know about the world and the way the fossil record works, and the very fact that animals from all of the earth would have to be redistributed throughout the earth and repopulate the earth, and they would have to evolve, which kind of goes against the whole biblical thing. Evolution isn't good. So, yeah, I mean, so this guy's found some ambiguous sounding statements that, they sound completely consistent with the way the world was viewed back then, and somehow they seem consistent with now. And then he just kind of looks past all the things that are completely ridiculous by today's standards. So that's my thing with that. I mean, if you look hard enough, if you have a book with 15,000 plus pages, and dozens of translations to choose from, and you're trying to find something that kind of sounds like something scientific nowadays, okay, you're probably going to find it. Especially if your things are so lenient as the world hangs upon nothing equals the world revolves around the sun because of gravitation in space. That doesn't strike me as very profound. I was never really impressed by those sorts of mining. So then here's your challenge. Here's my challenge. Prove the Bible wrong. Well, first I'm going to show you, I'm going to kind of like make a comparison. Let's say you open up a science book and you read some stuff that you know isn't true, stuff that doesn't make sense, or stuff that sounds just plain ridiculous. Would you be a little skeptical about the stuff that you weren't already knowledgeable about? For example, let's say one part of the book says dogs lay eggs. Then there's another part. I mean, we know that's ridiculous, but then there's another part that says the average surface temperature of Mars is 50 degrees Fahrenheit. Okay, well, I mean, that second part might be true. I mean, I actually don't even know the surface degree of Mars. That might be true. I mean, I just made it up, but it might be true. But is there any reason to believe the second part is true? I mean, even if if there's a whole book and one little part says dogs lay eggs, I'm throwing the book out. Especially being a science book. Now you're saying, well, it's different. It's just a religious book. You know, it's more about like teaching you things and things like that. Okay, well, let's look at the laws then. What sorts of laws don't hold up and are ridiculous? Cutting off hands? Killing of non-virgin wives? Beating children? Genocide? Human sacrifice? These are things that are in the Bible. My point is, in the case of the science book, would you be likely to take the second statement as true, or would you feel hesitant to take the book's word for it? And the reason you'd be hesitant is because it's lost its credibility with you in such a fundamental way that, oops, my light almost fell, that you're not sure if if the rest can be even trusted. I mean, you don't know. I mean, if this is false, the rest could be false. You've already admitted that fair portion is not true. How are you supposed to relate and trust the rest of it? And with a science book, there is a method of trusting it. We can go to other science books and confirm with more accredited science books that are trusted, and if they line up, well, then we know it's true. But if we have to go through all that work just to find out this book is true, why not just throw out that book and read the book that's real? So if you have this, but then if you have the Bible, you have nothing really to compare it to. Does that mean unless you can prove an objection to a point, that point should be followed? I don't think so. Just like if that science book was the only science book on Earth, and you know that dogs don't lay eggs, but you don't know the surface temperature of Mars, you don't trust the surface temperature of Mars just because you personally don't know that the surface temperature of Mars is something else. It's just not credible anymore. So I mean, can you really prove the Bible wrong? I mean, sure, you can get rid of credibility like I have. I mean, in my mind, can you really prove it wrong? No, because I mean, you can't even prove a science book wrong. You'd have to like go through it and find every single fact and statement it makes and prove each of those wrong, and then you can actually say that the whole thing is proven wrong. You know, and that's just so tedious. You don't do that for things. You work by credibility, especially with books. So in this case, the book is not credible. So it's not wrong. I just find it not credible. Does that mean that certain things that I don't really know about might not be true, like God's existence? I mean, they might not be true, but they could be true. I just don't know. It's just not credible anymore. If everything in the Bible was perfect and worked with everything in the world around me, in ways that couldn't be explained for that time, I'd be tempted. But the closest it can come is a lot of crazy stuff that really doesn't make sense, that is very similar to past mythologies from other religions that it likely stole and it reinterpreted. Look that up. And then a few things that, if translated the right way, seem to kind of correlate with our modern understanding of the way the world works. And this is the book that we're resting our faith in. So the real question is, can we trust it? And I find that a fair amount of it is simply absurd, and I know that you find a pretty fair amount of it to at least not be believable. So I'm not going to rely on it. So why are you? That's my stuff for today. Hope it didn't come off too strong. I got into a tizzy with another guy, the liberal Christian, and he might have watched this video. You might have watched our videos. Hope that we don't get into that sort of fight like we did there. Hope you're having a good day, and I'll talk to you later. Look forward to your response, as always.